Tonight we delve into a tale that has kept entire generations awake, a wail emerging from the river. In almost every culture in the world, stories persist that take on a reality of their own. The air turns cold and thick with fog. The whisper of the generations.
They are chronicles that have traveled through time, whispered from fathers to sons, from mothers to daughters, or passed down like an inheritance of fear by grandparents to their grandchildren. They are like what we know today as legend, fragments of a past that refuses to be forgotten.
Cierren bien las puertas, porque la Llorona les va a golpar y se los va a llevar. Cierren bien las puertas, porque la Llorona les va a golpear.
Tonight, we delve into a tale that has kept entire generations awake, a wail that has left children lying vigilant, listening for the echo of the river. For tonight, we shall listen to the cries of one whose grief knows no rest. Tonight, we speak of the legend of the weeping woman. Our story begins in 1890 in Hidalgo, a small town near Guanajuato, Mexico. There, a handful of families lived in absolute harmony, enjoying the peace and the generous harvest that the land offered them each season. Before the great fences divided the land, the town beat to the rhythm of the seasons. Morning smelled of freshly roasted coffee and wood-fired bread, while muleteers exchanged grain for honey in the central square. It was a life of hands, weathered by the fields and markets, full of color where wealth was not measured in property deeds, but in the shared harvest, and the value of a word, given under the sun. It was the height of summer, and beneath an unrelenting sun, the townspeople of Hidalgo gathered at the market, dressed in white linen and wide-brimmed hats, to shield themselves from the heat. Peace was the town's only law, until the day the thunder of hooves against dry earth announced an unexpected arrival. The landowners had returned. At their head, riding his horse with quiet arrogance, appeared Mario, the landowner's son, whose presence would alter the fate of everyone forever. The encounter.
God preserve this town from such a sun woman. Not even the shade of the ash trees offers respite today.
Drink this, sir. Cold atole is all that tricks the body when the earth burns. That will be 2 cents.
Lovely children you have, yet it strikes me to see a woman so young shouldering the market and their upbringing alone. Where might the father of these little ones be hiding?
It is not easy, sir, but they survive as best we can.
You carry more than most men could bear. I admire your courage, Maria.
Following that first meeting, the Hidalgo market became the setting for a courtship as constant as it was unequal. Antonio, driven by an immediate fascination, frequented Maria's stall with a persistence that did not go unnoticed, yet his interest seemed to stop solely at the mother's beauty, ignoring the presence of the children with an almost absolute coldness. Maria, possessing a pride as vast as her poverty, kept a cautious distance, knowing that the worlds of the landowner and the atole vendor were separated by unbridgeable chasms. But from the shadows of a nearby corner, the eyes of the curandera, the village elder, took in everything with unsettling clarity. Without parents to guide her, Maria stood alone against the landowner's ambition. The curandera sensed a dense vibration, a dark energy beginning to enfold that nascent bond. The seasoned woman knew that Maria's pride was a wall difficult to scale, but the foreboding of an impending tragedy compelled her to seek the right moment to warn her that, at times, the interest of a powerful man is merely the prelude to a long night. The relationship between Maria and Antonio was not born of love, but was rather a seed of ruin. She felt in her bones that something sinister was taking shape, a blood price that history would soon exact in exchange for so fleeting a passion. The healer.
The relationship between Maria and Antonio is dark. The healer ought to worry for Maria and her children. Yet Maria is possessed of great pride, ignoring all counsel. That affair with Antonio will not work.
Maria's destiny began to be woven between two fronts that predicted the same tragedy. On the one hand, in the darkness of the hut, the Santanera issued warnings loaded with dark visions, imploring Maria to see the shadow that lurked behind the brightness of the landowner. But Maria, blinded by a pride that she confused with freedom, despised the old woman's wisdom, calling her senile. Meanwhile, in the halls of the mansion, the contempt was of a different kind. Antonio's parents passed sentence against a union that they considered a stain on their lineage, urging him to return to the fold of a wealthy lineage. Antonio, trapped between obedience and desire, finally confessed his most bitter truth. For him, Mary was a necessary conquest, but his children were never part of the equation. Thus, ignoring the prophecies of the Spirit and the commands of the blood, they both launched into a secret meeting under a sky of summer that was already beginning to smell like a storm. The shadow of obsession. Following the bitter altercation with the Santanera, Maria's fate was sealed in silence. The old woman realized with horror that her warnings no longer found an echo in a soul consumed by pride. The dark energy, dense and voracious, began to engulf Maria's world without any alternative to halt the disaster. Obsessed with the promise of a life beside Antonio, Maria failed to see that every step toward the landowner was a step closer to the abyss, surrendering herself willingly to a negative force that would no longer allow any turning back. The clash of two worlds. Meanwhile, within the halls of the estate, the contempt was of a different nature. Antonio's parents pronounced judgment against a match they considered a stain upon their lineage, urging him back into the fold of a wealthy pedigree. Antonio, trapped between duty and desire, at last confessed his most bitter truth. To him, Maria was a necessary conquest, yet her children were never part of the equation. Thus, disregarding the Spirit's prophecies and the dictates of blood, the two plunged toward a secret rendezvous, beneath a summer sky that already bore the scent of a storm.
Antonio, that woman is a market vendor. She does not have our stature, and to make matters worse, she comes with two children who are not hers.
Son un estorbo. Tu madre tiene razón. Deberías concentrarte en Melissa, la hija de los hacendados del norte. Esa relación con la sirvienta es un error monumental. Se equivocan. Mi único interés es María. Los niños no son más que un estorbo en mis planes a largo plazo.
Think carefully about what you are doing, son. End that madness before it is too late and it complicates the honor of our family.
The Alley of Despair. The air in Hidalgo has become unbreathable under the weight of a sentence handed down in mahogany halls. Antonio's parents have been implacable. Maria, with her two children and her humble origins, is a stain on the lineage that must be erased by the figure of Melissa, the blue-blooded heiress. Maria now finds herself trapped in the center of a storm that she can no longer ignore. The Santanera's warnings, previously dismissed as delusions of the old age, resonate today with the precision of a curse fulfilled. Without options and seeing how Antonio's affection fades in the face of the demands of his status, Maria begins to understand that, in the landowner's game, she is just a dispensable pawn. The pride that previously sustained her begins to transform into a dark desperation, the prelude to a decision that will mark the river forever.
Cierren bien las puertas, porque la Llorona les va a golpar y se los va a llevar.
The invitation. In the icy silence of the large dining room, Don Antonio and Doña Sara have decided that patience has come to an end. There will be no more allowances for your child's whim. Maria and the hindrance of her offspring must be erased from the family map. The strategy is clear and lethal. A formal invitation has been sent to the owners of the northern haciendas. For a week, the mansion will open its doors to receive Melissa and her lineage, forcing a coexistence that forces Antonio to regain his senses and lineage. Antonio's parents are not only looking for friendship, they seek a pact of blood and land that will leave the atoll cellar as a bitter memory, ensuring that her son understands once and for all that the family name does not mix with the mud.
This situation with Antonio must come to an end. I am going to write a letter to Don Luis Garcia and Doña Sofia.
Yes, I agree. We should invite them and their daughter Melissa.
And now a special message to our audience. We deeply appreciate your utmost attention and thank you for embarking on this historical journey with us.
Dear viewer, bringing these stories and videos to life requires a great deal of effort and dedication. If you enjoy our work, please consider subscribing to the channel, sharing this video, and leaving a comment. Your support means everything to us. Thank you.
Al atardecer, la Llorona va a entrar el pueblo y se va a llevar los niños que estén por fuera.
They are not here on a visit. They have come to Antonio away.
The veil of lies was torn with the sound of another's laughter. At the edge of the garden, hidden among the shadows that have always been her only refuge, Maria contemplates the spectacle of her own replacement. Melissa is not a guest. She is the glass wall that the Garcias and the landowners have built to separate her from Antonio forever. Seeing her lover surrendered to the elegance of the heiress, Maria feels how the healer's warning turns into a cold fire in her chest. The love she swore protecting her has become the executioner of her hopes, and the river, which once sang promises, now only seems to murmur the name of an imminent tragedy. The poison did not come from rejection, but from a desire that was already burning in Mary's womb, the thirst for gold and the hunger for lineage. Upon being expelled from the Garcia silk paradise, her mother's love was devoured by wounded ambition. In his disturbed mind, his children stopped being his blood and became the dead weight that prevented him from ascending to the summit of wealth. Possessed by malignant stress and blood-curdling envy, Maria decides that if she cannot be queen among the living, she will be the master of a kingdom of shadows. With his heart rotten by interest, he walks towards the river to execute the last act of this tragedy, giving the lives of his children in exchange for an eternal silence that no coin can buy. As a child of those lands, Maria knew the river's secrets better than anyone. Every backwater, every stone, and every betrayal of the current formed part of her own story. With a tranquility born only of madness, her mind mapped out the end. She would lead her children along the shore, navigating the undergrowth until reaching the point where the riverbed fractures and the depth forgives nothing. In those deepest reaches, where the water surges with fury, Maria decided that the world of the living was no longer enough. There she would surrender the souls of her little ones to the current, convinced in her delusion that the river was the only safe bridge to the valley of the innocent. With her plan quieted within her mind, Maria carries out the final movement of her departure. Before setting out for the riverbank, she chooses to acquire 2 new dolls, a token meant to offer quiet comfort.
Quiero comprar estos 2 muñecos, por favor.
Por supuesto, señorita. Son muy especiales. ¿Los empaco para regalo?
No, son para mis hijos.
Beneath the pale moonlight, these simple figures occupy the children's thoughts as they walk the dark path toward the water. Maria steps with steady resolve, leading them toward the secluded stretch known only to her, where the shore gives way to the deep, silent current. While the little ones remain engrossed with their new toys, she counts every moment and step. She knows that just beyond the shallow edge, the powerful river will take its course, enveloping everything in its wake and carrying them away into the quiet night long before they can comprehend what has transpired. The road of no return. Once Maria stepped into the quiet shadows of the river, a heavy silence fell over the night. As she let go of her children into the gentle stream, she returned to the shore like one awakening from a dark spell. Falling to her knees with a cry that echoed through the trees, she realized that her little ones had departed for a tranquil, celestial realm far beyond the reach of her poor choices. In that instant, the dark impulse and the thirst for wealth that the healer had foretold, that heavy burden rising to her neck, vanished all at once. The longing for status and the Garcia's vast estate vanished from her heart, replaced by a sorrow heavier than the river itself. Maria understood the true weight of her actions. She had given up everything for nothing, and with her children now resting in the water, the world she had known collapsed forever.
Mis hijos, Dios mío, que ocho mis hijos. Mis hijos, mis hijos. Mis hijos. Mis hijos. Mis hijos son. Dios mío, mis hijos. Mis hijos, Dios mío, ¿qué? Mis hijos, Dios mío, que ocho mis hijos. Mis hijos, Dios mío.
The witness from the shadows. In the distance, concealed among the reeds, an old campesino stood as the sole witness to the end of a world. He watched Maria step into the water with her children and saw how, following the sepulchral silence of the river, she returned alone to the bank, shattered by a weep that scarcely seemed human. Paralyzed by horror, the old man observed as Maria walked back toward that same deep stretch, submerging herself one last time until disappearing into the current. The elder's tears were the first to fall for this tragedy. He saw the spirit rise from the waters, no longer a mother, but a curse. It would fall to him to bear the news to the town, to recount how the river devoured the living and yielded a legend. From that night forward, the quiet of Hidalgo's streets would carry a name, and the old witness would remain the voice keeping alive the initial lament of La Llorona.
Mis hijos.
ser, la Llorona va a entrar al pueblo y se los va a llevar, cabroncitos. Cierren bien las puertas.
Oh, Chiqui, la Llorona se los va a llevar.
La Llorona nos va a golpear en
Cierra la puerta, Chiqui.
Sus lamentos se escuchan en la oscuridad del pueblo. Nadie está a salvo esta noche. Sus gritos se oyen cada vez más cerca. La Llorona busca almas inocentes en la oscuridad. Cierren bien las puertas.
Pobrecito, se lo creen con el
Chamacos cabroncitos, si no se portan bien, la Llorona va a golpear y se los va a llevar.
Mi abuela y mi mamá me han dicho que porte bien o la Llorona me va a llegar en la noche. Y si no para que después mira bien aprenat bien para pana, con su vestido blanco y cuello largo, como muy largo. ¡Ay, qué miedo! Adiós.
En el corazón del pueblo, donde despertaba el sol, el mercado olía a pan, a café y a tradición. Gente humilde de la tierra, bajo un cielo siempre azul, antes que la sed de oro apagara toda luz. Pero Antonio apareció con su orgullo y su poder, y en el alma de María la ambición empezó a crecer. Cegada por la riqueza y un apellido de seda, su amor de madre se consume en la hoguera, con dos muñecas nuevas en sus manos de inocencia. Caminan entre sombras sin saber la sentencia. Y el río sabe bien cada nombre y cada error, ahogando la inocencia, ahogada en el dolor. Un alma condenada que vaga en la penumbra, llorando en la noche por la paz que no la alumbra. Bajo la luna fría, por la orilla y la maleza, ella guía los pasos hacia la corriente densa. Los niños van jugando con muñecas de trapo, sin saber que a 2 metros el agua no da amparo. En la parte más honda, donde el lecho se quiebra, dejó ir sus almas a la paz de la niebla. La fiebre negra se apagó al salir a la orilla, sola y destrozada, llorando entre la hierba. La ambición ha muerto, la locura se ha ido, dejando solo el peso de un amor perdido. Ay, el río sabe bien cada nombre y cada error, ahogando la inocencia, ahogada en el dolor. Un alma condenada que vaga en la penumbra, llorando en la noche por la paz que no la alumbra. Un viejo pescador lo vio todo en la corriente, vio a María entrar al agua y perderse para siempre. Fue testigo del llanto del espíritu en la bruma de una leyenda nacida de la pena y la luna. Hoy camina en el purgatorio buscando una señal, un destello de gracia, un perdón celestial. Ay, el agua lavará tanta culpa y dolor, renaciendo de
Dear viewer, bringing these stories and videos to life requires a great deal of effort and dedication. If you enjoy our work, please consider subscribing to the channel, sharing this video, and leaving a comment. Your support means everything to us. Thank you.